I wonder if you've ever heard of attachment styles and if you've ever thought that they were similar to personality types. I'm here to tell you that they're not. And the main reason that personality types and attachment style is not the same is that you can change your attachment style. And I love that about this. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about attachment theory and attachment theory in dating. So stick around to learn more. My name is Hannah Bodenhorn, and I'm a licensed mental health counselor, and this is the Reflection Room. Today, I'm going to teach you a little bit about attachment theory, the basics, and then how that looks in the world today, in the dating world, and relationships in general. So, I'm going to start off by explaining secure and insecure attachment. So, secure is obviously what we all want to be, and it used to be at 50%. So, 50% of the population used to be secure. Now it seems like it's going down a little bit. The other 50% was insecure, and that's divided between anxious and avoidant attachment styles. However, there are some different mixes of the two, like disorganized or anxious ambivalent, but I'm just going to focus on the two for right now. So, anxious attachment, if you think of it in terms of kids, so attachment styles are actually developed in our childhood. They start out when we're very young. So, imagine like a 3-week-old baby. That's how early it can start, which is scary because obviously you can't remember back then. So, you don't know where it all came from. It comes through our unconscious and then into our adulthood. You develop it from that early on when you're a baby, throughout your childhood, adolescence, and then into your adulthood. If we think of a parent and their child in the park, for example, let's say the parent is sitting on the park bench and then the kid wants to go play in the playground. And a secure relationship where the kid feels secure with their parent, they know that they can leave that parent at the park bench and go into the playground, and that parent will be there when they get back. They can look back and check every once in a while, but they know their parent's still going to be there. With an anxious attached child, they're going to look back and they might not see their parent there. So their parent might be there sometimes, and then other times they might, and the kid doesn't know. So they're going to be really anxiously attached. So if you imagine a parent trying to drop their kid off at school for the very first time, and the kid hangs on to their parent's leg for dear life, and they don't ever want to leave because they don't know if their parent's going to come pick them up. And it's really sad, but this happens so often. And maybe the parent doesn't even realize that they're doing it. They're just so preoccupied with what's going on in their own life that they don't realize that they're creating an anxious attachment in their own child. Back to the park bench theory or the example, the kid is probably not going to go play at the playground because they're going to be so scared that if they leave and turn their back, that their parent could leave. They don't know if their parent's going to be there or not. With avoidant attachment, that kid believes that their parent's not going to be there anyway. So they're more apathetic. They don't have much feeling about their parent leaving or staying or either. They just go off onto the playground and do their own thing, and they don't care if their parents there or not because they don't expect them to be. So those kids grow up to be scared of attachment because they believe that everyone hurts them or everyone is going to leave them. So they can be cynical and they don't get close in relationships because they're scared that everyone's going to hurt them. Anxious attached adults believe that they have to earn the love of their partner or their friends or whoever they're with. They have to earn it, and they can do that through people pleasing. It's a classic. They could do it through throwing an adult version of a tantrum, making threats, any kind of behavior that they feel is going to pull that person in and make them stay. Unfortunately, in romantic relationships, anxious attached people and avoidant attached people attract for some reason. I always say opposites attract, but they don't last. And this is a good example of that. Maybe the avoidant person unconsciously doesn't realize that they are an avoidant attacher. and they want to find somebody who's loyal and cares only about them, and that's what they're seeking out, but that's not who they are. And same for an anxious attached person. Maybe they find it attractive that somebody is able to stand on their own and be independent. They're able to satisfy their own needs because they desire that. Like they want to be that way, but they're not like that. So these two attract, and it's very toxic because it's just not going to last. The anxious attacher is going to cling on, and they're going to be so clingy, and they're going to try so hard to earn the love of that avoidant person. But the closer that the anxious attacher hangs on or tries to pry into the avoidant attacher, that avoidant attacher is going to keep pulling away and pulling away. So it's a game of cat and mouse. And that can be very hurtful. Now that we've explained the anxious and avoidant, a secure attachment, they're comfortable with closeness. They trust people. They have appropriate boundaries. They don't people please. They're able to stand up for what they believe in and put their foot down when they need to, but they also have close friends and family members. They develop healthy relationships. And you can change your attachment style. Like I was saying earlier, if you were raised to be anxious or avoidant, and then you get into adulthood and you realize, oh, I have this problem that I'm anxious or avoidant, or maybe both, which I won't get into right now, but you might realize that, and then you actively seek out help to change your attachment style. You can do this by therapy, of course. That is a really great way to do it because your therapist is going to model a healthy attachment to you. It's still a therapeutic relationship, but they're going to set boundaries because it's a therapeutic relationship. And those are healthy boundaries. They're going to model consistency and unconditional positive regard for you. And that's what you need in relationships. So they're going to model that for you. And then you can take that, apply it to yourself, and then apply it to relationships outside of you. If you're dating and you realize, oh, I'm an anxious attachment, so I'm going to seek out somebody who's secure and I'm going to have them change me. That's not a good idea. That's going to be unhealthy. Plus, that's too much to put on the other person. You wouldn't want somebody to come to you because you're a secure attacher and be like, oh, I want you to change me because you seem healthy and I want to be healthy. That's not good. But you can develop healthy friendships with people who are securely attached, and you can see how they handle their friendships with other people. You could develop a relationship with a mentor, with a parental figure that maybe you didn't have growing up, and you can model that. You can have it modeled for you, and then you can create that in your own life. So that's another healthy way to help change it. I like to give examples because I love history and I love serial killers. So I'm going to give an example of an avoidant attacher to the extreme. So the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski, is a great example of the extreme version of an avoidant attachment style. And this happened early on in his childhood. He was about 9 months old and he was hospitalized for several months. So this was back in like the 50s or 60s, where when they put a kid in the hospital, they wouldn't allow the parents to come see the child. That is detrimental to a child's well-being, not only physically, but mentally and emotionally. It just absolutely destroys them. So he was left in this hospital by himself, other than nurses coming in and out, but there was no consistent caregiver for him when he was 9 months old, not even able to walk or talk yet, maybe just barely, but he was sick, so probably not. And he had no one to take care of him. He developed an avoidant attachment style. And you can see it throughout his life. I've seen a couple documentaries about him, but he didn't have any romantic relationships. He did try to date one time, but it got really weird really fast, and it only lasted a short amount of time. And then eventually he stopped trusting people altogether, and he moved out in the middle of the woods in a little shack with no electricity or water, and he started building bombs and mailing them to significant people around the country on his mission to end technology. He was a prime example of avoidant attachment in the extreme. Now, I'm not saying everybody who's in avoidant attachment becomes like that. That's definitely not the case. There's avoidant attachment with a moral code. So they don't seek out to harm people. They just avoid closeness. They're like, keep your distance. I'm okay. Can't trust you. And that's what you mostly see nowadays. So when you move in from an anxious or an avoidant attachment to secure, it's called an earned secure attachment. So now, once you're in an earned secure attachment style, you can tell a coherent story about your childhood. You can regulate your emotions and your behaviors in relationships. And you can learn to trust people and have comfort and closeness in relationships. Instead of that relationship, for maybe an anxious person, relationships define them. They feel that they're only worthy if the other person finds them worthy. But now in an earned secure relationship, this relationship just adds happiness to your life. So you're already content by yourself. You already can fulfill yourself, but then this relationship just adds to it, just adds a little bit of sparkle to your life. So that's how you get into an earn secure is therapy, developing healthy friendships and relationships, and having that modeled for you. Now, how does this relate to dating now? So dating is a relatively new concept, actually. It only started, I don't know, I think less than 150 years ago. So late 1800s. And it started because women weren't able to fund themselves. Like they couldn't just go out to dinner or to a show or like a play. They had to have someone take them. And back then, arranged marriages were all there was. Even biblically, it was you were married when you were basically a child. You were either single or you were married. There was no in between. And the Bible says nothing about dating. There's no context for dating in the Bible. So this concept is relatively new, and it was created again because women were able to do things on their own. So men would ask them out on dates and they would take them out, but they expected things in return, favors in return. Eventually, this became the societal norm, and dating became a preferred way to marry instead of having your parents set you up and then you were stuck in that without any say so. Now people wanted to date around and find out who they would want to be with. Actually, it wasn't until the 1980s, I think it was the 1980s, where people on a list of their priorities in dating, where love became number one. Before it was like safety, security, provision, all of those things. And then love was like at the bottom of the list. But then in the 1980s, all of a sudden people were like, no, I want to love first. And then all this other stuff comes after that. So that's still very new comparative to dating. Like we want love and satisfaction in relationships now instead of before it was all about safety and protection. So dating has also changed a lot because of dating apps and also women becoming more financially independent. So I found some information on dates recently. It used to be where most people assumed that women were anxious attachment styles and then men were avoidant. And that was most likely true. But now it's flipped. And now women are more avoidant and men are more anxious attached. So the reason for this, researchers at the University of Toronto found that single women reported higher life satisfaction overall. And then a Pew Research study found that 38% of single women reported looking for dates. A behavioral scientist in the UK stated that the healthiest and happiest population subgroup are women who never married or had children. So I think there's a lot of reasons for this. Women are now able to support themselves financially so they can create the life that they want without needing financial support from a man. And they also are more likely to find emotional satisfaction in friendships. They're able to get those emotional needs met in other ways than just romantically. So there's a lot of changes going on with that. But then also, if you think about dating apps have created a more transactional version of dating than it should be. So another study was done, I can't remember how recent it was, but they found in 1995, a little over 60% of marriages started out from setups. So family, friends, whoever set these people up, and then they eventually got married. Not like your arranged marriages, but just, I have this friend you seem like you'd fit with. Let's get you together on a group date and see how that works out. And it would work out. And then about 10% or so were married through a dating service. So I guess going to a matchmaker or some online thing. Now it's flipped. So about 10% are setups and over 60% of people meet online. However, over 80% of matches that are made don't result in actual dates or meeting in person. So people are matching online, but they're not actually meeting in person. And I think that's where the problem is. Dating apps are creating this transactional fear of missing out on the best option. They keep looking and keep searching and keep swiping, and instead of just focusing on the one person that they find interesting at the moment and seeing if that cultivates into a relationship. Dating apps have become a huge dopamine fix. You can go in there and get instant matches and compliments and likes and feel good hormones all of a sudden, and then you're good for a while. And then some people are on there looking for meaningful connection. So there's people on there for all different reasons, not the same reasons, and then they're coming away dissatisfied because they found somebody who was just looking for a dopamine hit and when they were looking for a meaningful connection. So all these lines are getting crossed, and then people are left feeling like hopeless. Like, how am I going to find a date when nobody out here is like being for real? They're not being serious on this dating app. So dating apps have created a more transactional version of dating than it used to be, unfortunately. And I think that's left women feeling more avoidant and men feeling more anxious. So the roles have been a little bit reversed in this situation. None of this is to say that dating and relationships are hopeless, because that's absolutely not true, especially with attachment styles. If you feel like you're in the anxious or avoidant category, the insecure category, I'm here to tell you that it is changeable. You are able to change that attachment style. And that is what I love about this theory, is that you can work on it, you can develop healthy relationships, you can have it modeled for you, and then you can go out and have healthy relationships yourself. You don't have to live in this toxic cycle of chasing avoidant people because you're anxious, and avoidant people chasing anxious people and getting sick of them. You don't have to be in this cat and mouse cycle all the time. You can have a secure attachment style, and I love that. If you have any questions, drop them in the comment box. I would love to hear it. And until next time, keep on reflecting.